Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. I also have a mini course called Telepathically Connect with Your Specific Person. So if you guys are interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. In today's video, I wanted to discuss something that seems to happen, maybe not all the time, but relatively often, or at least enough that it merits a discussion, it merits an explanation, it merits some clarification. And what I'm talking about is seeing the opposite play out of whatever your desire might be, even after you have changed your state. This is something that does happen from time to time, so today in this video I wanted to explain why this happens and of course what you can do about it going forward. So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So as I just said, this is of course something that doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes, and it does happen enough to make people wonder, to make people confused, and in some cases, unfortunately, even discourage people. You've done your inner work, you've shifted your state, you are genuinely in a state where you feel calm, where you're not triggered by the past anymore, you're not triggered by the old story, you're dominantly in a good mood, you're dominantly in a good state, you feel like things are working out for you, you start feeling hopeful, you start feeling optimistic, and then boom, all of a sudden, something opposite plays out. Or something happens in the 3D that you weren't anticipating, that is the opposite of what you want, or if it's not the opposite, it is something that you perceive as unpleasant, unwanted, undesirable, or maybe as a hiccup or a hindrance to whatever it is that you're manifesting. So why does this happen? And what can you do about it if it happens to you? Before I go into that and answer this question, I want to make a very important clarification. When I talk about changing your state, I talk about genuinely shifting into a different state, into a different attitude, into a different perception of things and your situation. I'm not just talking about doing affirmations, doing inner conversations, doing whatever techniques you're doing and still feeling like the old self, still dwelling in the old story. That's very different. That is still your old dominant story, being dominant within your consciousness. And of course, that keeps playing out in the 3D still. What I'm talking about here is when you have genuinely shifted your state, when you are genuinely feeling better, when you are genuinely feeling more hopeful, more optimistic, when you're going about your life knowing that things are working out for you. And yet, at some point around that time, something happens in the 3D that still shows you the old story or still shows you the opposite of what you've been manifesting. And that is despite that genuine shift in state. Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that even though this might be something unpleasant, unwanted, undesirable, first of all, you need to keep in mind that it's nothing that cannot be changed. Everything can be changed. Nothing is final. Nothing is set in stone unless you decide that it is and unless you assume that it is. So first of all, if this happens to you, remind yourself of that truth. Remind yourself that this isn't final. This isn't your end story. This isn't your end result. You can still change it, you can still turn it around. The reason why this unpleasant situation might happen in some cases, I'm not saying it will happen in every case, it actually doesn't happen in every case. A lot of the time, your change in state, your genuine shift in state does get reflected in the 3D directly and immediately. But if this happens to you, if despite changing your state, you're still seeing something opposite in the 3D play out, especially if it's something all of a sudden, the reason for that is simply the old 3D, the old story catching up to you. Just like with any other manifestation, take the things that are positive, take the things that you desire. Let's say that for a while you doubted it, for a while you weren't able to get into the state, and then finally you relax, you get into a better state, you get into a more neutral state, you get more into a state of a wish fulfilled, and you go about your life and you start feeling better. And this is when it manifests. It manifests and it happens when you relax and when you let go of all that obsession and all that neediness and all that desperation. Unfortunately, sometimes the same thing can happen with fears, doubts, and insecurities manifesting. In other words, you spend an amount of time, maybe a few days or maybe a few weeks or maybe even months, dwelling in a state of fear, dwelling in insecurity, dwelling in doubt, and then finally, you let all of that go. Finally, you get yourself into a better state. And once you feel like you've started turning a corner, boom, the old story shows up. And the fears and doubts that you thought you had left behind, which you had, by changing your state, you have left these behind, now manifest, now catch up to you. This is the exact same mechanism in both desirable and undesirable manifestations. Unfortunately, against our will, sometimes the undesirable manifestations, our fears, our insecurities, might actually end up playing out after we have let go of them. And this is why you might see this happening, especially if it's in the initial stages of letting go of all those fears, those insecurities, those toxic previous states, especially if it's in the first, say, few days or few weeks. And some people call it the purge. You could say that. If that helps you, you could give it that meaning. I don't personally resonate with the idea and the concept of a purge, but if it helps you, by all means, you can say it's a purge of the old reality, because in a way, it actually is. But truly what it is just your old reality, your old story, just finally catching up with you. If that was your dominant state for a while, now it's being manifested in the 3D. The good news is though, I don't want you guys to fret. I don't want you to feel discouraged. I don't want you to panic. The good news is that it can be changed. Like I said earlier in this video, nothing is final. Nothing is set in stone. The 3D is completely and totally malleable. So even if something unpleasant or undesirable like that happens to you, don't fret, don't freak out, don't worry. Take a few deep breaths and realize that you are going to turn it around. Realize that it's just the old story catching up with a delay, just as it happens with a desirable manifestation sometimes. It just happened with an undesirable one, unfortunately. And know that there is no way that it will not be changed if you persist in your new state, if you persist in your new desired reality, if you persist in what you now want and what you have now decided to claim for yourself. So now that you know why this happened, you also know the way to fix it and to improve it. You know that it's just a matter of persisting in your new state, not giving it so much importance, not panicking about it, not reacting to it to the best of your abilities. And to the best of your abilities as well, continue to live in your desired state. Continue to persist in your desired reality, because now you know, you even have proof, even with that negative event that manifested in your life, you have proof that your imagination creates your reality. Your imagination precedes your 3D reality. So by dwelling in imagination, in your state, in your desired state, in that new reality that you're creating for yourself, it has no choice but to actually manifest sooner or later. And even that unfavorable circumstance that unfortunately played out because it was the old story catching up to you, even this is going to change, even this is going to shift, even this is going to fall away, or maybe you realize it doesn't matter, or maybe it becomes revised in some way. Maybe the people involved don't even remember it. And know that persisting in your new state is your answer to get whatever it is that you want, to finally get to your desire. So if this happens to you, don't take it so badly. Don't react to it as much as you can. Realize that it's just the old story playing out. Realize that you're not doing anything wrong, especially if you've now shifted to a new state. Try to sustain that new state. Try to dwell in that new state and in that new reality. And as calmly as you can, continue to pursue that new reality that you desire and that you have claimed for yourself. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.